The castle was unusually quiet that morning, a soft stillness filling the grand halls where golden sunlight streamed through towering windows, catching the intricate patterns of the polished marble floors. The prince, restless and unsatisfied, paced back and forth in his private chambers, his long fingers brushing the velvet drapes that framed the windows. He had everything a prince could desire: wealth, a kingdom that flourished under his rule, a stable and loyal court, and yet, none of it mattered. For years he had searched for true love, someone whose heart and soul would recognize his own. But in all that time, every encounter had been marred by shallowness or pretense. Nobles smiled politely at his wit, and princesses curtsied at his height and charm, but none seemed to see him for who he truly was. He wanted someone who understood not just the pomp of royalty, but the quiet, hidden corners of the heart, the moments that were tender and fragile, the moments that could not be bought or commanded. He stopped suddenly, staring at the golden mirror that dominated one wall. His reflection seemed tired, worn by years of polite conversations and carefully chosen words. "Is it so much to ask for a soul who speaks to mine?" He whispered to his own reflection, and the mirror seemed to offer no answer, reflecting only the loneliness in his blue eyes. He ran a hand through his tousled hair and let out a deep sigh, almost as if the castle itself felt the weight of his despair. The sound of the morning bells calling the servants to their duties drifted in from the hall, a soft reminder that life moved on outside the prince's melancholic musings. Yet he could not join them, could not play the part of the carefree heir smiling for appearances. No, he needed something real, something beyond gowns, jewels, and dances that always ended in polite applause rather than genuine connection. Today, he decided, he would act differently. Today, he would test the world in his own way. His mind wandered to an old story his grandmother once told him in his youth, a tale of discernment and sensitivity, a test for those who claimed to be noble or true. She spoke of a princess whose delicacy could reveal the authenticity of a suitor's heart. He chuckled softly at the memory, imagining her tiny voice insisting that true nobility could not simply be measured by wealth or title. Perhaps, he thought, the world was full of pretenders who were happy to play at love, and it would take someone extraordinary to pierce the armor of his own guarded heart. Determined, he called for his trusted chamberlain, a tall man with a kindly face and gray-streaked hair. "I wish to host a gathering," the prince said, his voice carrying a rare intensity. "But not like the others. I want a test, something subtle, something that reveals the truth about a person's spirit, not their ability to recite etiquette or dance gracefully in a ballroom." The chamberlain raised an eyebrow, accustomed to the prince's whims, and nodded. "As you wish, Your Highness," he said, bowing. "Shall I send invitations?" "Yes," the prince replied, pacing once more, "but the invitation should go far and wide. Let those who seek a crown or a title come if they must. But know this, I will see beyond the costumes, the words, the carefully constructed smiles. Only the genuine shall remain." The preparations began immediately. Guests arrived from distant lands, a dazzling array of princes and princesses, dukes and duchesses, all curious about the peculiar test the prince had devised. The great hall buzzed with polite chatter, silver trays of delicacies passing from hand to hand, musicians playing soft, enchanting melodies. Yet the prince's mind remained elsewhere, scanning faces for signs of authenticity, noting the eyes that flitted with curiosity, the smiles that were practiced or spontaneous. Amidst the glittering crowd, a young woman appeared at the edge of the hall, hesitating slightly before stepping forward. She wore a simple dress, far less ornate than those of the other princesses, and carried herself with a quiet grace. There was no pretense in her expression, no exaggerated courtesy or artificial smile. Her eyes, wide and luminous, seemed to hold stories untold, a mixture of curiosity, gentleness, and keen awareness. The prince felt a sudden jolt of interest, the kind that prickled the skin and quickened the pulse, though he would not admit it aloud. He observed her carefully, noting the way she moved with deliberate care, touching objects lightly as if aware of their weight in the world, listening intently to the laughter and conversation around her, but not being swept away by it. She approached the prince with a polite bow, but her eyes met his with a sincerity that few had dared to offer him. "Good morning, Your Highness," she said softly, her voice melodic but not rehearsed. "It is an honor to be here." The prince inclined his head, studying her further. Something about her felt different, tangible yet elusive, as if her presence carried the essence of authenticity itself. Yet, mindful of his quest, he decided to continue his subtle test, one he had prepared with both mischief and intent. In a nearby chamber hidden from the main hall, he had arranged a bed with 20 mattresses stacked upon one another, and beneath them a single pea. "This," he explained to himself, "will reveal the delicate truth. True sensitivity cannot be faked." He invited the young woman to rest, claiming it was customary for visiting princesses to experience the comforts of the palace. The other guests watched with polite curiosity, unaware of the hidden test beneath the sumptuous layers. The young woman entered the chamber with quiet dignity, her expression calm and measured, though there was a hint of amusement in her eyes as she regarded the towering stack of mattresses. That night, the prince could hardly sleep, pacing the halls with anticipation. He wondered if his test would reveal what he hoped to find. Would this princess, whose presence seemed so genuine, truly possess the subtlety and depth of spirit he sought? Or would she dismiss the discomfort of a single pea with indifference, proving herself unworthy of his heart? His mind replayed the memory of her steady gaze, the hint of a smile that suggested intelligence and curiosity, and he felt a rare hope rising within him. Morning came, and with it, the young woman returned to the prince. Her face bore the marks of a night restless with discomfort, her eyes shadowed with fatigue. Yet she did not complain, did not demand explanation or sympathy. Instead, she spoke with quiet honesty, her voice laced with a mixture of humility and self-assurance. "I am afraid I did not sleep well," she confessed. "Something beneath the mattresses disturbed my rest, and yet I could not ignore it, for it reminded me that even in luxury, there are truths one cannot overlook." The prince's heart leapt. Here was the sincerity he had longed to find, expressed not in grand words or dramatic gestures, but in a subtle, unshakable honesty. He stepped forward, bowing deeply, unable to suppress the warmth swelling in his chest. "You have proven what I have sought for so long," he said, his voice trembling slightly with relief and joy. "It is not beauty, nor title, nor wealth, but the truth of one's spirit that matters most." The young woman smiled, a gentle curve of her lips that seemed to illuminate the room. "And it is not merely the test that reveals truth," she replied softly. "It is the patience to observe, the willingness to see beyond appearances, and the courage to act with integrity even when no one else is watching." From that day forward, the prince and the young woman became inseparable, their connection deepening with each passing moment. The castle, once a place of hollow grandeur, transformed into a home filled with laughter, understanding, and quiet intimacy. The other guests, once dazzled by the pomp of the court, faded into the background, irrelevant in comparison to the bond that had been formed. Together, they discovered the joy of shared secrets, the comfort of mutual respect, and the exhilaration of finding in another soul a mirror for one's own. The prince no longer paced the halls in restless longing, for he had found what he had searched for his entire life, a love that was true, tender, and unwavering. And the princess, sensitive in heart and mind, found in him a companion who valued her authenticity, cherished her insight, and adored the delicate truth she carried within her. The tale of the prince and the princess, of the pea and the mattresses, became legend not for its oddity, but for the enduring truth it carried. That true love is discovered not in grandeur or appearance, but in the subtle recognition of one soul by another, in the courage to honor the smallest truths, and in the beauty of hearts that are willing to see each other, fully and without pretense. In the quiet corners of the castle, amidst the laughter and warmth, they lived not only as royalty, but as two souls whose search for one another had finally ended, not with fanfare, but with understanding, compassion, and the gentle certainty of love that is real and everlasting.